You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be fancier. You don't need to be more expert. You need to be trusted. We buy from people that we know, we like, and we trust. And today we want to talk about how you become the trusted voice, not by being some loud, gaudy performer or by doing crazy things, but by showing up and being trustworthy. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 40 books and counting. Over the course of the last 40 years as a marketing expert, I've had the wonderful privilege. I've worked with, everything from brand new startup companies to multi-billionaires, from stay-at-home moms to Olympic athletes. I've been blessed to work with doctors, lawyers, politicians, insurance brokers. The list goes on and on. Somebody asked me one time, they're like, have you ever worked with an XYZ book? And I said, well, I'd be really hard pressed to find a kind of book that I haven't worked with. And they were like, and it wasn't them, but I have used that phrase many times since then. And they said, I had somebody else say to me, they were like, have you ever done and I forget what it was, but I'm just going to use this as an example, a 17th century French prose book. And I was like, okay, you got me. I've never done one of those. All right. There are a few genres that I haven't done, not because I wouldn't be willing to, but just because simply I haven't ran into anybody, that's writing that kind of stuff. But it's not about that. It's about having the capability to be able to help you really understand what your book is for. Your book is the ultimate trust engine. I love it. Actually, one of the affiliate partners that I work with that is a ghostwriting company. It was a really great conversation because we were talking about it. And he said, yeah, one of the things that I've said to people, and I just love how he put this, he goes, somebody is probably not going to sit down and read through every last scrap of information on your website. And that's assuming that you have really great information on your website, which most all of us, we have some good information on our website, but there's so much more. Okay. But they're not going to go through, read all of that. And point of fact, let's face it, when we start getting into those long scrolling landing pages, we're either going to click a button that's going to take us down to the bottom to buy it because we're convinced, or we're, going to scroll to the bottom, or we're just going to go away because it's too long. Okay. People aren't going to take the time to read all that stuff. I know. And I've even, worked with people who teach that whole concept of the long scroll, until they squeak, basically, landing page. And it really isn't real. Conversely, and I love how he put this, he goes, conversely, though, he goes, even if you take the statistic of, what percentage of people finish books, by the way, if your book is over 200 pages, that's less than 3% of people that ever finish the book. That is not to say that they don't read the book at all. It's an important part of this. He said, so if a person picks up and they spend, let's even say, a half an hour, he goes, although a lot of times when we read, we may put aside an hour to 2-3 hours. If even if it's just 15 or 20 minutes, a person picks up your book 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you've gotten a chance to talk to them, to share with them, to give them the kind of things that they want and need in their life. That's how you build trust. It's not about being louder. Who can be the loudest? Who can say it the most amazingly cool? Nobody's ever said it this way before. Trust me, there's probably nothing new under the sun. King Solomon said that, what was that, about 2000 BC? So about 4,000 or so years ago. There was nothing new under the sun back 4,000 years ago. How much more so is that true in 2025, headed almost into 2026? But showing up, it beats everything else. Showing up imperfectly, just being you, having foibles and tripping over yourself and laughing at yourself, like you've seen me do a gazillion times here. Um, I went back through it. I edited what we did yesterday because I'm going to turn it into an evergreen webinar for people to be able to come to. And I'll invite you guys to it, and you can come back and you can watch it over and over and over again. And it'll be totally free. Absolutely. But when I went back, it was about 23 minutes, which is a little longer than what we're wanting to go these days. When I went back and edited it, and I took out all of the redundancies and the foibles and the times that I said and things like that. Hey, Caden, I'm glad to have you here with us. When I took all that out, it ended up being like just under 14 minutes. Got rid of almost 10 minutes of content just to make it streamlined and really cover what I wanted to do. But you see, the concept yesterday was just to show up imperfectly. I went through and I read to you live, and I need to redo that. And maybe I'll probably will take that on for this holiday season. I read to you live the old version, it's over there. I don't want to dig it out. The 1.0 version of Bestsellers Only at the Beginning. And in reading through it, there was a lot of stuff that was superfluous. There was a lot of things that came right up to the edge and then didn't give you the info. And that was why we put out the 2.0. We turned our 20th book into our 40th book. I'm not a mafia boss. Thanks, though, I guess. I don't know. We brought it out because I wanted it to really be a resource for you. I wanted to not tell you, but show you how do you turn your book into an active landing page? How do you gamify it? How do you make it so that it's fun and it's interactive and it's entertaining? How do you do that kind of thing? I wanted to show that to you live. And now I need to go back and do... No, I do not know Angel Batista. I need to go back and I need to reread live to you again, the 2.0 version of it so that we can then have it available in audiobook form. But it's about showing up imperfectly. I always tell people when they're reading their audiobook, when you mess up, because you're going to, everybody does. I don't care whether you're James Earl Jones or you're, brand new you that's never done a reading before, okay? You're going to mess up. You just simply stop, make a break. That gives a pause in there, a blank space for the audio tech, and then you move on. You go back to the beginning of the sentence or the paragraph that you messed up, and you just go back and you redo it. The longer you do it, the better you'll get at it. And you can learn how to be able to, look over at the script like I'm looking at my script right now. Read the line and then come back and present it. And one of the things I learned from a professional actor friend of mine is, although scenes flow together and stuff like that, often they're really actually filmed in that very chopped up sort of a way. Person will learn just a small handful of lines, will memorize those. And then, ready, go. And they'll say that handful of lines and the other person will say back their handful of lines. And that may actually literally be the end of that. And then they, learn them. Sometimes they go deeper than that. And I know because I've been on stage plays, there are times when you have to memorize all of your parts. I get that. But the truth of the matter is if you could learn how to be able to say the next line, look over at the thing, how visibility creates familiarity, and then come back and go, I want to show you how visibility creates familiarity. I'm showing you by doing it for you right here, right now. When you show up consistently with a heart that wants to connect to people, honing your message into clarity, having clarity of who you want to speak to, and taking everything that you learn as you go through and clarifying, getting clearer and clearer. Clarity is an ongoing, lifelong journey. But you can be as clear as possible as you can be right now today. And you can put out the book that you need to put out right now today. Visibility is what's valuable. Showing up and being real, imperfectly, perfectly you, that's what's going to get it done. And people just get used to seeing you. And that familiarity creates the trust. Not, doing all kinds of crazy blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. There are what we call in our society these days influencers. For the most part, absenting people who are well-known actors and actresses. Okay, I'm going to set them off to the side because they're influencers, a whole different kind of things. I'm talking about the traditional, TikTok, Instagram, whatever influencer that you think of that, most everybody would love to become. Most of them build their following based off of them doing and saying whatever they need to do or say. And let's face it, honestly, they do it from being really cute on camera. That's why for every one guy influencer, there's probably 20 or 100 girl influencers. And that's why you've heard some really horrible horror stories about things that people are willing to do to get them noticed, because that gets them viral. And sometimes they make money from it. Sometimes, most of the time, they don't. They go all the way to getting completely naked on camera because of the promises of the tens, hundreds, millions of dollars that they're going to make. When in point of fact, according to the statistic I saw the other day, the average OnlyFans model makes less than $400 ever. Want to tie that into books? The average book sells less than 40 copies ever in its lifetime. See, it's not about doing all the craziness. It's about visibility. The reason why the books only sell that is because they launch. People make announcements, not a book launch. They don't have a marketing plan behind it to begin with. And then after that, they just expect that, like Field of Dreams, you build it and everybody's just going to come pouring in. And it doesn't happen that way. You need familiarity. You need constant connection, consistent, clear connection, clarity, consistency, connection. It all boils down to that. You don't need to play a role. You don't have to see if you can do the most outlandish thing to make a difference in people's life. In fact, and here's the cool part about it, you don't even need to look like an expert. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You want to invest your time in something, invested in pouring into people. You're probably not going to be polished. Here's the great news: you don't need to be. You just need to show up as you. Be real. Be all in. Be present. And let your followers, let them show up, because they will. They're waiting for you. They're looking for you. Authenticity is what makes your voice. Not pretending. Just consistently, authentically being visible. And there are programs, there are systems that I have in place, absolutely, to keep you top of mind, because it's real easy to listen to everything that I've just said and say, oh yeah, there's another thing I got to do. I'm actually here to present you with something that I'm going to suggest to you, for the most part, you're not going to do. We're going to do for you. We're going to create the visibility for you. We have marketing systems in place. Yes, it absolutely does work with the book, because I can tell you from a marketing standpoint, even still, even where it may feel like everybody has a book and even every single one of them is a bestseller, the truth of the matter is that's not true. And second of all, you need a system in place for how you're going to use the book and what you're going to do it from. KP, I live in central Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere. What we want you to do is be the trusted voice. And if you're ready to be the trusted voice, DM the word AMPLIFY. Let's make you the trusted voice. Let's start building your trust right now. I have a kickstart quick win Thank you for saying that you like my eyes. I have that quick win available that we can put into place. We could start working on it right now today. And results from it can show up as soon as tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. It can be that systematized. I intentionally stayed away from the word easy because it's a lot of work, but we want to do all the work for you. So DM the word amplify. Let's get you going. Let's get you seen to be visible and valuable. You don't become trusted by being perfect. You become trusted by being present. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope that you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, that you know how incredibly amazing you are. And then until we're together again next time, which will be tomorrow, when we're going to talk in more detail about your book as the trust builder. We'll do that tomorrow. And until we're together again, have a great week.